All right, let's take this to a live discussion. We're now joined from COSATU by Matthew Parks from our studio in Cape Town. We're also joined on the line by FEDUSA's Dennis George, who's attending a Labour conference in Switzerland. Good evening to you both, gentlemen. Mr. Parks, if I can start with you. This has been a tool used to hit COSATU with because you were involved in the negotiations. You agreed to this minimum wage. In retrospect, given the fallout, would you still have agreed to something that you have said is not perfect?
Yes, definitely. We didn't go into this blind. This has been a long campaign for us. COSATU has fought for a minimum wage for decades. We were given a mandate by our members in 2015. We knew it would be tough talks, tough engagements with government, with industry, but we're very pleased. We had originally proposed 26 Rand. Business had proposed 11 Rand an hour. We managed to achieve 20 Rand an hour. It's a start. It's a foot in the door. It's a platform upon which to struggle for a living wage afterwards. But it's not a living wage. It's a minimum wage below which no worker should be paid legally. And in simple terms, it's going to mean an increase in wages for 6.4 million workers. That's half the workforce. That means half of our families will get extra money at the end of the month. They'll have more money to buy food, to buy electricity, to buy drinks, petrol, school supplies, etc. So it's really a huge victory. And it's going to benefit the most poor and most vulnerable workers, such as your farm and domestic, retail, hospitality, restaurant, cleaning workers, etc. So really it's a fantastic historic victory. We're very pleased the President supported us, and we're urging Parliament to pass it as quickly as possible.
Those 6.4 will benefit unless they lose jobs along the way. Is the concern about job losses at all justified, Mr. Parks?
No, look, we went through detailed research. Academic experts from universities, locally and internationally, were brought in to pitch in what's the right figure. And that's why you see a bit of a compromise proposal for farm and domestic workers, where they'll be pegged at 90% and 75% for 2 years to phase them in. So it's been done and designed precisely to avoid any job losses. Because really we can't afford a single job loss when 1 out of 3 workers are unemployed, or you have 1% jobless growth in the economy. But we think it's been pitched at the right level. And if, for example, there is any businessman or woman who says they cannot afford it, and they can show financially that they cannot afford it, they can apply for an exemption for a temporary period to the department. So it's been balanced in a very mature and sophisticated way to advance workers' wages, to help reduce poverty and inequality, but also not to cause any job losses in the economy. And we think if you look at the examples of the United States, of Brazil, of Germany, and so on, a minimum wage has been shown to be a success there. It's helped to put money in people's pockets, it's helped to grow the economy, to increase demand, and that has helped to create further jobs down the scale of the economy.
Mr. George in Switzerland, do you agree?
Yes, good evening. And I just wanted to add from my side that here in Switzerland, in Geneva, the International Labour Organization, the introduction of the national minimum wage being celebrated as a major achievement, because it now gives us that opportunity to have a wage-led growth approach, because we're starting now to growing with real wages. And I also agree with Matthew said that, millions of our people, about 6.4 million of our people are now going to benefit back, where their incomes are going to increase. Households will have higher incomes. And what we are saying, this is not what we wanted, but I think it's a big good opportunity to start with, but it will mean a lot for people that is right at the bottom of the wage levels.
I was asking the Labour Department earlier, you've both spoken about research, this is being hailed as a success, but it seems to me from the research we don't really know how this will go. There have been different outcomes in different countries. Are you not concerned at all, Mr. George, that this is a bit of an experiment?
No, look, every country has to start it with the process, and South Africa has taken that particular step. Research indicates, quite clearly that the effect in terms of where people might, have negative consequences, like companies can't afford. But in that particular process, we have made provision in the legislation for companies to apply for exemption An exemption will be granted at certain levels, but also for certain times. But as far as we are concerned, and what we've been also experiencing ourselves from our own research, is that there is quite a positive approach for the country and for our people.
Back to Mr. Parks from COSATU. You've been accused as an organisation of selling out by your rival trade union federation SAFTU. We're hearing that they've asked for a meeting. Is that correct? Is this point of division now going to bring these federations together?
Look, we always have championed workers' unity as COSATU. From the beginning, our position has been one federation, one country, one industry, one union. So we welcome anybody. That's why we have worked very closely with FEDUSA and with NACTU as the three major federations in the country at NEDLAC. That is why we as COSATU, FEDUSA, NACTU have had one position going on to this process. So we welcome staff to meeting with us, but it doesn't mean we're going to bend over backwards and to abandon our positions. We're clear that we're moving forward. It's a bit of political posturing by SAFTU to accuse COSATU of selling out. We adopted our mandate on a minimum wage in our 2015 bargaining conference as COSATU. SAFTU's current General Secretary was the then General Secretary of COSATU. NUMSA and FAO were then part of COSATU, and we all agreed to this mandate. So it's a bit strange now for them to jump and say, no, they don't agree. And also, I think we must also be honest with ourselves and say, look, in the metal industry, NUMSA has often accepted wages below 20 Rand an hour. FAO especially has accepted many times wages below 20 Rand an hour. But look, as COSATU, we don't want to fight with other unions. We want to work together irrespective of our organizational or political differences. What's important is advancing workers, protecting jobs, growing the economy, improving living conditions. We are convinced that a minimum wage is a key tool towards doing exactly that. But having said that, we cannot delay it for SAFTU. SAFTU has been asleep on the job. They almost missed the submissions to Parliament and so on. So we're going to go forward. We're waiting for this day. Workers have waited too long. But we do welcome engagement with SAFTU and any other body who's interested in building workers' unity.
So now 3 laws were passed at the same time. I'd like a comment from both of you on the secret strike balloting. To me, it seems perfectly reasonable because workers will have a chance, albeit in secret, to say if they want to strike or not. Starting with you, Mr. Parks.
Sure. Look, there's been much hysterics around the labour relations in terms of the secret ballot issue. Unfortunately, it's not based upon fact, and we think those who have criticised it have not read the bill or the act. Balloting has been part of the Labour Relations Act since 1995. All employers' organisations or unions are required, as part of the registration requirements with the Department of Labour, to have balloting provisions when they go on strike or when they go on lockouts. That has been there since 1995. Most unions have those provisions in their constitutions. Most unions do conduct secret ballots of the members before they go on strike, when they elect leadership, and so on. We're not sure of any other ballot in the country which is not secret. Ballots by the nature are secret. So really the insertion of the word secret in this bill is a clarification of what's been there since 1995. And SAFTU's current leadership has been, when they were in COSATU, supporting the Labour Relations Act. They never once complained about it. Today, for political reasons, they jump up and down about it, but that's fine. But it must also say SAFTU's own unions, like FAO, have balloting provisions in their constitution. But look, for us as COSATU, we believe in workers' control, we believe in democracy. We have no problem with balloting our members secretly before we go on strike. And this is what we've always done, because it's about workers' decisions. It is their right to go on strike. So we're fine with it, and we have always championed the cause of democracy.
Mr. George, what's your stance? I think FEDUSA should be less concerned about minimum wages. You often deal with workers who earn a bit more. Your stance, though, on the secret balloting?
Yeah, look, I mean, our stance on that process is about industrial democracy. So when you bring democracy into the workplace, you know that workers have a voice, and the way they express their voice, you know, it's very, very important because that will guide the union, but it will also strengthen collective bargaining because people will now know, it will have more certainty, it will also have more transparency. And that's the reason for us. It's something that is not strange, but it's something that we embrace. And we think that that will also, you know, basically, you know, make collective bargaining much more modernized, and it also strengthens it.
All right, let's end with you, Mr. Parks. Speaking to both of you, it's the exact same stance as government. Maybe that's correct, but it will be continued to be used by your opponents to say you're a sellout, you're one and the same, government is your masters. Are you worried about that going forward?
No, not at all. We're glad when government listens to COSATU and listens to our members and to workers. We'll be fighting with government if they did not listen to us. For us, the key things are we have delivered a minimum wage. It will improve the wages of half the workforce of the country. It will give money to the most poor, the most vulnerable, most exploited workers. It will help to stimulate economic growth. We've been able to do that whilst protecting the right to strike, while strengthening collective bargaining, and other issues in the Labour Relations Bill, such as providing picketing rules, advisory arbitration, extending collective agreements to outsourced and labour broker workers. So for us, this is an historic occasion. Workers have fought for this wage for 100 years. We are finally on the cusp of victory. It's a start, it's not a living wage, but it's a foot in the door to continue our campaigns for a living wage, for national health insurance, for social security, better education and transport, and so on. So we're very pleased we have managed to deliver to our workers our mandate that they gave us.
All right, thank you both, gentlemen. That was Matthew Parks from Trade Union Federation COSATU, and from FEDUSA, Dennis George on the line from a Labour conference in Switzerland.